Welcome back to Thompson's Coins, where today we're taking a look at the largest circulating gold coin in Australian history. So understandably, when you think of gold coins circulating in Australia, the most common place your mind would go to would be the old gold sovereign. But you may be surprised to know that there was a period of time, I'm going way back to 1800, and now this was a time when currency wasn't quite so easy to come by and we weren't actually producing any of our own in Australia. Trade was often a bit of a hodgepodge of goods and services, so you had things like flour, wheat. Rum was actually a really popular method of exchanging goods and services. So the governor of the day, Philip Gidley King, came up with a list of 11 international coins, which would then be deemed legal tender and suitable for use within the colony. Now, despite having a number of the Proclamation coins available, I realized that sometimes I get a little too excited, and I think we have 8 in stock of the 11, so we almost have a complete set of Proclamation coinage. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to make a video highlighting each of the coins, and I realized that that would probably take the best part of an hour if I actually sat down and got right into it, the way that I really enjoy researching these coins and sort of bringing the story to life. So what I've decided to do for this video is highlight the Joanna and the half Joanna. Now these are 2 Brazilian gold coins, and now the Joanna was actually, this is the headline, this was technically the largest circulating gold coin in Australian history. Now it may shock you to know that it was actually minted in Brazil, and it was not the kind of thing that you would expect to see either. Even if you were around back then, it was a really significant sum of money. So out in the rest of the world, it had a value of £3 and 11 shillings. The attributed value was £4. So it was about an 11% premium, with a view that it would be more useful with a higher attributed value for that Proclamation period. And one of the reasons that higher face values were being attributed to these internationally circulating coins is that the hope was it would prevent the temptation to either have them melted down or have merchants come through and collect up all of the currency in exchange for the goods that they were selling, and then leave the colony, and once again, you'd have some currency issues. So let's take a closer look at the half Joanna first. So we'll start with, I suppose you might say this is the cousin or the little brother, the younger sibling of the full Joanna, and we'll take a closer look at this design here. On the obverse, we have a portrait of Joseph I, who actually survived the Great Lisbon earthquake of 1755 and developed an intense phobia of living inside stone buildings. So for the rest of his life from then on, he and his court lived in a lavish complex of tents and wooden structures on the hills of Lisbon, refusing to rebuild the royal palace. Flipping over to the reverse, we have the royal coat of arms of Portugal with ornate scrollwork, ribbons, as well as a royal crown which features at the top. The centre of the design also features 5 shields, which are very symbolic. They have a number of symbolic references, one being the victory of Portugal's first king, Alfonso I, over 5 Moorish kings at the Battle of Ourique in 1139. They're also symbolic of the 5 holy wounds of Christ, and finally they're also symbolic of defence and sovereignty of the nation. Flipping back over to the obverse now, if you look just above the date, you'll often see a letter, and this is a mint mark, so this relates to the mint at which the coin was produced. The half Joanna here was minted in Rio. Now let's get back to the main event, the full Joanna here. John V had the nickname the Magnanimous because of his generosity, immense wealth, and grand projects. His reign marked one of the wealthiest periods in Portuguese history. It was fueled by vast golds and diamond shipments from Brazil. And when I say vast amounts of gold, we're talking an estimated 800 tons of gold during his reign. He was also responsible for the Palace of Mafra, which is a huge monastery, and it was built to rival some of the European monarchies. Interestingly, it was financed almost entirely with Brazilian gold, and is still one of Portugal's most famous landmarks to this day. So in terms of day-to-day commerce, the half Joanna as well as the full Joanna back in the Proclamation period would not have been widely circulated amongst general civilians, as it were. It was an incredibly large amount of money. We're talking several months' wages for the full Joanna. It's the type of thing that would have generally been used to buy large amounts of livestock, land, and things of that nature. So they were substantial purchases that were being made, which is interesting to think about because now it represents the absolute crown jewel of a proclamation set. So it still has a very significant amount of value attributed to it even today. And just in general, I think this is such an interesting part of Australian coin collecting history, because so often people look at things like the round 50 cent as a unique and unusual period of coin collecting. When you get back a little further into this area, like the Proclamation period, you begin to learn that Australia was drawing upon the resources of the entire globe in order to facilitate their daily commerce. Now, the Proclamation is regarded as being generally successful in terms of its function to create a little more stability in the economy of the period. It was successful, but it was not obviously adopted into an ongoing currency system that was used for decades to come. It wasn't until 1813 that Governor Lachlan Macquarie introduced the holy dollar and dump, and things really started to kick off in terms of Australia having their own stamp and their own currency legacy moving forward. But for me, it all really begins with the early 1800s Proclamation period, and it's an area of collecting that scratches so many different itches for me. I love international coins, I love gold coins, and I love Australian history. So it carries over into so many different areas of collecting. If you decide that you would like to pursue a Proclamation set, it's quite manageable in the sense that there are only 11 coins. When you're looking at the Joanna and half Joanna, you're right up at the top end in terms of cost. It's all comparatively downhill from there, and a little less financially cumbersome, you might say, for your collector that's mindful of a budget. However, it is also something that you can just have as a standalone item. Something like a full Joanna is a beautiful coin and has a great deal of historical significance, both on a global stage as well as domestically for Australia. Being the largest circulating gold coin in Australian history is a pretty cool title to have, and not something that I think gets nearly enough fanfare, or it doesn't get acknowledged enough. And then the half Joanna complements it nicely and represents, for me, a great introduction to the wild world of Proclamation coin collecting. As I mentioned earlier at the start of this video, we've currently got in stock the vast majority of the Proclamation series. We've got, I think it's 8 or 9, maybe 8 of the 11 coins that were represented in the Proclamation. But I wanted to give special mention to the Joanna and half Joanna. I think they're really interesting coins and deserved their own video. As time goes on, hopefully I'll get to feature the other coins before they inevitably end up sold and with new collectors. Hopefully I'll get an opportunity to highlight some of the other coins that we've got in stock from the Proclamation period. But regardless as to whether or not they sell before I make videos and things of that nature, it's an area of collecting that I will endeavour. I'll promise that I'll focus on a little more, because people often come into the store and ask me what my personal favourite area of collecting is, and I talk to them with great enthusiasm about the Proclamation period, but for the longest time I haven't had any in stock. So I talk about them as a concept, but I don't have the physical coins to point to elaborate on the stories. So now I finally do. I'll endeavour to make a nice little display in I think I'll allocate one of the display cubes behind me just to the Proclamation period, and it's an area that I'm hoping that I'll continue to have stocked as coins come and go. I'm hoping it'll become a permanent fixture in the shop, because as I mentioned, it's so nice to have that blend between a conventional coin shop as well as it's almost part museum in that sense. People can come and learn about interesting periods of history that they may not have otherwise known anything about at all. So there you go. Thank you very much for stopping by and checking out this video on Australia's largest ever circulating gold coin, as well as its younger sibling, the half Joanna. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you would like to put together a Proclamation set, please do get in touch. You can reach us at info@thompsonscoins.com. Otherwise, if you enjoy collecting, the greatest hobby in the world, you can come on down and visit us. We're here at Shop 8 in the Boronia Mall, which is 50 Dorset Square in Boronia. We're open from 10 till 4, Tuesday to Friday, as well as Saturdays from 10 till 3. Otherwise, consider subscribing to the channel. Let me know in the comments if you were aware that the Joanna was the largest circulating gold coin in Australian history. Compare it to a sovereign and you'll see the size difference. It was pretty substantial. Again, not the type of thing that was used by your everyday John Q citizen in daily commerce. It was a substantial amount of capital to have your hands on. But there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to some substantial Proclamation gold. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.